Hey guys, it's me, Shawl360, and this is my review for episodes 19 and 20 of Uncontrollably Fun. So, to start with, in case you're wondering, I actually really liked the finale of this show. I loved it, to tell you the truth. Emotionally, I was wrecked by the time everything was over, but in a really good way, because I felt like we finally got a payoff on all of the different scenarios that the characters had kind of wrangled themselves into. And at the end of it all, I felt like this show ended about two different things. It ended with the justice for Noel and the KJ group, and it ended with Joonyoung getting his beautiful goodbyes and being able to kind of settle his life before it's over. So I want to talk about Joonyoung's beautiful goodbyes last, but right now I want to talk about the KJ group and the hit and run and all this stuff. So a lot of people, when I read the comments after I watched episode 20 on Drama Fever, they were really upset that they felt like there wasn't enough emphasis on getting justice for Noel and her family. They didn't feel like any of the rich people were punished enough, or it wasn't clear exactly what punishment everybody would get. A lot of people were even upset the fact that Jete was touched by the punishment that ended up being meted out to the Choi family and the KJ group. But when I think about everything that's been happening from the very first episode to now, I feel like this was the most realistic and the most slightly positive ending we could get on all of these people. Because really and truly, if this was real life, what would have happened is that when stupid Noel gave that footage to Assemblyman Choi, he would have turned it over to the head of the political party. He would have gotten his raise. Him and his family would have gone on business as usual, and somehow or another, he'd have found a way to put an air bubble in Jate's IV line and kill him. Like, really, that probably is what would have happened. But that's not what happened. What happened instead is Assemblyman Choi does end up taking the footage that Noel gives him, ends up letting it broadcast on the internet, which is the most brilliant thing to do because television can be censored, but the internet, when it's on the internet, it lasts forever. He admits to his wrongdoings. He ends up tarnishing the name of all the members of the Choi family. They lose control of the KJ group. Jung-in does get arrested. She does get, charged with this hit and run. And even though we don't get to see what the ultimate judgment was, this is as close to a position of justice as we could get. And do you know why this is as close to a position of justice as we could get? Because in real life, rich people can thwart justice through lawyers and through money. So probably what happens in real life is that the lawyers for Jung-in somehow or another managed to tackle a legal loophole that says that she wasn't allowed to be filmed without the proper consent forms and all that stuff. It's going to say that this was all hearsay, and then all of the charges will be dropped. And of course, Joonyoung will be dead at this point, so there'll be no concrete witness to all of this other than the tape. And they could say that the tape was merely acting and that this was actually a scripted piece, and they could go on that way. So at the end of the day, it really could go in a totally different direction. So stopping it at this point is the closest that all of us are going to get to a real and true ending that gives any kind of justice to Noel and her brother. So that's the hit and run part. Now, the implications of a lot of things meant that one character in particular finally got exposed for the absolute trash rat that she is, Madam Choi. It comes out that she's the one who sent the car to follow Jete that caused him to have the accident. It turns out that she engineered all the things that happened in Assemblyman Choi's professional career to get him to the point that he is. It reveals just how cold and callous she is as a human being, that she would forfeit her son's life in order to protect her status, in order to protect her wealth, in order to protect the image that the public has of her and her family, and to create this perfect life that she thought that she deserved. Like, Madam Choi really is what Jung-in could become. And if all of the trials that Jung-in's going to go through and possible incarceration help to change her into a better person, she will have been rescued. Because that's the thing about building a foundation on glass. Once that glass is shattered, the whole house falls down. And that's exactly what Madam Choi did. She built a house on lies and manipulation. And now that all of it's been exposed, it's crystal clear. All the cracks can be seen, and there's really nothing left but something irretrievably broken. Yes, the Choi family still has money that they'll get from being the majority shareholders of KJ Group, but they no longer manage the group, so they've lost all their political and social power in that respect. Jete, it's going to be hard for him to be able to meet a nice girl from a good family and get married in that respect, because no other powerful family is going to want to be associated with the Choi family. Madam Choi and Assemblyman Choi have to stare each other in the mouth all the time, just hating each other for all the crooked shit they've done in the past. And that's their punishment, because it's even more shameful if they get a divorce. So that's why I say, like, this is the best ending that the writers could give us for everything that everybody has done so far. So I'm not mad at that. Now let's go on to Joonyoung and his series of beautiful goodbyes. First, let's start with his beautiful goodbye with his biological father. Now, Assemblyman Choi, I said the last time we talked that he is a monster. Like, he had really, by the time we had gotten to the end of episode 18, he had completely morphed into somebody that I hated. But in episode 19 and 20, he really regained kind of a memory of who he used to be. And one of the ways that he gained that was by his last interaction with Joonyoung. Joonyoung has a memory slip moment where he thinks he's back in college after he just passed the bar exam, but before he snatched Noel's purse. And he gets the call from Assemblyman Choi to come to his office. And when he goes there, the look on his face, just naked with admiration and love and respect and hero worship for the man that he thinks Assemblyman Choi is. And you have to remember that Assemblyman Choi has never been able to see that look on Joonyoung's face with the knowledge that this man is his son. So when he does see it, and he knows that he's seeing it only because Joonyoung's memory has gone back, and he doesn't know what time it is, where he is, stuff like that. When he sees it, it breaks something important inside of him, because he realizes just what he lost, just how much esteem he lost in the eyes of his son, what a great kid his son was, and how much potential he had and how much of it was squandered, and how far he's fallen as a man to become this thing that doesn't earn any of the looks that he's getting from Joonyoung in that moment. And I think it was that moment right there that convinced him to go ahead and expose all these secrets, because it reminded him of what people believed in him for. It reminded him of who he was when he was that poor law student, and he was thinking about all the injustices that were being perpetrated on all the people around him. And in that moment and in that time, he realizes just how far away from his true self he's come. And it was a beautiful goodbye, because Joonyoung, that was stuck in that memory of that kind of teenage boy, he finally gets, some kind of love and emotion from this man that's his father. But at the same time, his father gets the most love and admiration he could get from a man who learned to despise him. So that was a beautiful goodbye in a lot of different ways. Another really beautiful goodbye that we had was the saddest birthday party in the world. I shouldn't laugh, but it was kind of comical and sad at the same time. So Uncle Oppa is having a birthday party, or Joonyoung decides to throw a birthday party for Uncle Oppa. And it's Joonyoung and Uncle Oppa's 2 kids and the CEO. And everyone except for Joonyoung is sitting around the table in these sunglasses, because they're trying not to cry in front of Joonyoung, because, it's just too much. And Joonyoung was like, oh, I didn't know that the dress code for the party was sunglasses. Let me put mine on too. He puts on the sunglasses, and Uncle Oppa is about to blow out the candles on the cake. And Joonyoung says, can I make a wish? I wish that you would stay by my mother's side. I wish that you would take care of her so that I can leave this world in peace, knowing that somebody's going to love her and be there for her. And then everyone around the birthday cake is bawling. It is the saddest birthday party in the world, but also so beautiful. Because in a lot of ways, where Assemblyman Choi is Joonyoung's biological father, Uncle Oppa has been his real father for all intents and purposes for most of his life. He's been by his mother's side for a long time. He's been there trying to mend their familial relationship. He's been there defending Joonyoung, giving him advice, encouraging him. He's just been there. And this is as close as you could get to like him acknowledging, you're my real dad. Like you're the man who I trust to take that role of the head of my family once I'm gone. And Uncle Oppa, after that birthday party, goes and puts a ring on Joonyoung's mother's finger. And she wants to throw it away because she's like, how dare you try to, mac on me when my child is dying? Do you not realize how wildly inappropriate this timing is? He's like, no, it's not. Because Joonyoung told me he wanted me to take care of you. It's his dying wish that he knows that he's not leaving his mother alone in this world. So you need to get your shit together, go see your son, say this goodbye, and let him know that he can die in peace. And I thought that was wonderful. I thought that was wonderful because, again, he had this wonderful goodbye with Uncle. And because of the wonderful goodbye he had with Uncle, it's going to allow him to have a wonderful goodbye with his mother, which hadn't been possible at first because she'd been drowning in her own grief. And the actress that plays his mother, boy, can she cry. Oh my gosh. Every time she cried, I wanted to hack a lung out because I wanted to cry with her. Like I was like this because I was trying to hold in the sobs. But she couldn't go to her son after finding out about his illness. She couldn't go to her son. And it wasn't because she didn't love Joonyoung. It was because she was so ashamed of how she had treated him for so many years. So ashamed of how she let society's opinions of her and her insecurity in herself keep her from acknowledging what a wonderful gift she had been given in her child. And after going to Assemblyman Choi and begging him to find a way to save their child, and for the first time acknowledging that that's their child together in front of him, she was grieving alone because she was too ashamed to go in front of her child, too ashamed to hear that judgment. But after getting this pep talk from Uncle Oppa, she goes to see Joonyoung at the country house. And when she goes to the country house, he doesn't know who she is at all, doesn't recognize his mother. But somehow or another, she gets into the house, and he mentions about how Noel was supposed to make him spicy beef stew, but she screwed it up. So, of course, Mom, since that is her specialty, she makes the spicy beef stew. And Joonyoung eats it, and he's like, oh, this is the best. Oh, my gosh. This is just like the stew my mother used to make. And the more he eats it, his memory starts to come back, and he realizes that he had forgotten his own mother. And, of course, he's heartbroken because it's more evidence that the end is near because he's losing more and more of himself. But while he's in a place where he's cognizant of who he is and who he's talking to, they have a discussion. And in that moment, he tells his mother how much he's sorry that he couldn't be the son that she wanted him to be. And she tells him, no, you were the best son, and I'm honored to be your mother. And I'm so grateful that I had you in my life. And she tells him, you see this ring on my finger? Well, she starts out with saying, do you see how my hair looks? Manok did this for me. Do you see how my clothes look? Gushing did this for me. Do you see this ring on my finger? Uncle Oppa did this for me. The surrogate family that you gifted me is going to take care of me. You did this for me. And even now, like, my eyes are stinging. I don't want to cry, but it's just, my nose feels like I've been swallowing pool water. It's just so great to see them reconcile like this. And for her not to let her guilt hold her back from being there for her son at the end. And for him finally to hear all of these things. And for him to be able to die with that peace of mind, number one, knowing that his mother's going to be taken care of, but number two, knowing that his mother didn't hate him. Because he tried to go to his mother after news of his illness came out, but she ran from him. And I think maybe he might have thought then that my mom's always going to hate me. But instead, she let him know, like, everything between us is peace now. Everything that could have been in our way to keep us from loving each other, it's gone. And the only thing that's going to remain here is the memory of how much I love you. And when the wind blows, I'm going to think you're visiting me. And when the flowers bloom, I'm going to think you're visiting me. And when the snow and the rain fall down, I'm going to think of you and everything that happens in life. Oh, gosh. I mean, it just is wonderful. It's wonderful. Oh, my gosh, so wonderful. So that's another beautiful goodbye. Another really beautiful goodbye is a cute goodbye. It's a cute goodbye between Nojik and Joonyoung. Nojik comes to the house and he is there to speak on behalf of Nari because Nari is too emotional to see Joonyoung. And he's there because Nari owes Joonyoung an apology. Apparently, she feels like the reason why they broke up in high school is not because Joonyoung was so terrible, but because she was too cute back in high school and she was dating 2 men at a time. And she should have not been doing that. She should have been faithful to him. And it's so cute because I'm sure he hadn't thought about this in years, but it's just fun to see that, you know, even the little things people want to resolve before the end. And then Nojik himself says, you know, Joonyoung, I'm mad at you. You used to be my hero, but now you're dying. And my dad told me that the only people that die are people who are too lazy to breathe. So I want you to be my hero again and keep breathing. And, you know, Nojik is my heart. You know that boy, he is my heart. So watching him kind of start to break down, I was like, no, not the baby! You know, that, and then when he was crying on the phone to Noel about the fact that, you know, they finally got their justice and now dad can leave the world in peace. Like, Nojik had some moments here as well. Like, he really had a couple of great moments here. But yeah, I thought that was a beautiful goodbye. I thought it wasn't shown, but it was kind of a beautiful goodbye that rather than Pororo being out there in the country, instead Noel's going to take care of him, and Joonyoung helped to make the house that Pororo's going to live in. So that was kind of a beautiful goodbye because he created a safe, loving space with somebody who's going to raise Pororo with the love that Joonyoung had for him. So it was a small but a great goodbye, those two. And then there's the goodbye with Noel. And the goodbye with Noel takes place over a series of scenes. Oh, I almost forgot the goodbye with Jete. The goodbye with Jete was actually really good too. So Jete realizes that Joonyoung doesn't know who he is. And he follows Joonyoung out to like this boardwalk by the seaside. And Joonyoung's like, do you know me? How do we know each other? And Jate's like, you were this really annoying guy who always thought he was right. And he was such an asshole. And it turns out you were right. And I just want you to know that if we ever meet again, I'm going to treat you like the big brother I should have been. And I'm going to love you. Ugh. The actor that plays Jete is not my favorite actor. I thought he was way too old looking for the role he was playing, but at the same time, he had a way of looking like upright that I really appreciate, and I appreciated more in that moment probably than I had throughout the entire series, where he was like, he looked like a chabo. He looked like the kind of guy who was raised to be able to put on the mask when he needs to. But in that moment, he was struggling to keep the mask of positivity up. So that was another goodbye. But back to Noel. Noel's beautiful goodbye with Joonyoung was basically her telling him that all the past between us is over. In terms of any animosity I could have had for you for causing the accident that I got hit by the car by, you covering up all these things that I needed to know, all of that's forgiven. All I want at this point is for us to be in love until we can't love each other anymore. And she even lets him know the only thing that she's worried about, it's not waiting for Joonyoung, but one day not being able to wait for Joonyoung because he's no longer here. And they spend their last moments loving each other and playing around the house and eating food and, you know, sitting under the stars. And it was just so wonderful to see that. And Susie, in my opinion, she never looked better in this entire series than in the moment she spent smiling and laughing and playing with Joonyoung. you could see in those moments why he would have loved her and why she would have loved him. But probably the most heartbreaking scene in the entire 2 episodes for me, besides the one with the mother and the son that I almost cried about again, is the scene after Noel leaves the hospital from pancreatitis and she's walking away from Joonyoung, which I don't know why she's being like that, whatever. But he breaks down and starts screaming at the ocean, "Please let me live. Let me live so that I can take care of my mother and be the son that she deserved. Let me live so I can finally be in love with Noel. I'm scared of dying." And outside of maybe the first episode and a couple of the scenes where Joonyoung was in pain, we never really got access to how scared he was of his impending death. And when Noel hugs him because he's scared and he's just saying, "I'm so scared, I'm so scared," I just love the fact that she could be there for him in that moment. I love the fact that he gave her a gift. In helping to get justice for her, he gave her a gift in that he cleaned the slate for her. She no longer is beholden to anybody or anything. She no longer has to feel guilty about the fact that her father's death is unresolved. She no longer has to be scared of the KJ group. She no longer has to feel like she doesn't deserve to live a good life and be an upright person. And for him, he no longer has to continue to work to make up for all the wrongs he's done in this world. And now he can just live his life as happy as he can be. And she spends those last days making his life as happy as it can be. Whatever role he needs her to play, that's what she plays. Whether he wants her to be Noel, his girlfriend, Noel, his nurse, the friendly lady that runs the hostel that he lives at, it doesn't matter. She's there for him. She is able to be a light in the darkness that is these last days. And I loved it. I loved the show, man. And at the end of the show, we assume that Joonyoung has passed. I mean, it's not explicitly said, but I mean, basically it is. So we assume that Joonyoung has passed away. We find out that Gookyoung is dating Nari, which was really a cute development. They discover a video that Joonyoung had filmed, and the video was like comedy tragic a little bit, because in the video he films it the day after he was supposed to have died already, according to the prognosis the doctor had given him. And he talks about how in finding out that he was dying, he learned to love life more. And also, he asked about Noel, he asked if he's still alive, but basically, you know, he's letting people know that in my last days, I wasn't unhappy. I was doing the things I loved, I was pursuing my dreams, I was being me. I was living my life to the fullest until I couldn't live it anymore. So you guys don't have to be sad for me. And he ends his video with a smile. And then we see Noel. She's back to being a PD, and she's still doing investigative journalism, and she's kind of in the same position she was when we first saw her. She's about to be tempted with a bribe. And this time she doesn't take it because she doesn't have to. She's free of the burden of having to live her life that way. And she's at a bus stop and she sees a picture of Joonyoung, and I guess it's an advertisement that says, "How are you today, honey?" And she goes up to it and she gives it a little kiss, and she's like, "I'll see you tomorrow." And she probably means, "I'm going to see, you know, this ad on this bus stop tomorrow." But yeah, it was just really nice to see how the ending of Joonyoung's life was handled. And even though they didn't show the parts where he was in pain, I kind of like that they didn't show the parts that he was in pain, because I would hope that they would have found a way to keep him as pain-free as possible in the end. Like, this is imagining that he's a real person. But yeah, I loved this show. I loved this show, and the ending for me was just pitch perfect. Pitch perfect when it came to Joonyoung. I didn't like the one scene between Haru and Nojik. I didn't feel like that scene served any purpose. It was kind of like he was promising to be her boyfriend if she doesn't find anybody else, but I feel like there's just too much water under the bridge for both families for that situation to ever work out. So I don't think that should have anything. They shouldn't have done that scene. Also, I feel like Jung-un, I'm still not sure kind of where she's going to go from here. I'm kind of curious about that. They didn't really ever tip their hand about whether or not she was going to change. She had the tears, but she's done that kind of angry tears thing before. So, you can't really tell if she's going to make a change. But those are the only things I was kind of like, I could do without that. But other than that, like, the show's called Uncontrollably Fond, and I always thought that the Uncontrollably Fond was about the fact that Joonyoung was uncontrollably fond of Noel and she about him. That's not what this is at all. The Uncontrollably Fond is because all the people in the show were uncontrollably fond. They were all uncontrollably fond of people that they couldn't have, or uncontrollably fond of life positions that they would do anything to protect. But at the end of it, with Joonyoung, he was uncontrollably fond of life. He loved being alive. And it wasn't until he found out that his life was gonna be over relatively soon that he was able to love life with the zest he could have had all along. And he made other people look at their lives differently as well. And I just think that I just think this show is wonderful. I know I've spent this whole half an hour just gushing and gushing and gushing, but I just think the show is wonderful, and it left me with a really solid kind of chunk of my heart ripped out. But I would still watch the show again. Like, I don't normally watch dramas again because I don't watch television shows again, but I would watch this again. I would, if asked, I would watch this again. I don't think it was a waste of 20 hours. I think it was gorgeous. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. I think I've said the same things over and over again, but I was in love with the show. I was in love with the show, everything about it. The only other thing that I didn't like, and I don't think I mentioned this on any other part of my reviews, I did not like the stupid American song that they used to play all the time in the show. I don't know who the artist is or whatever, but it's this song that's in English, and it really bugs me because the whole show is in Korean, and when this English song comes on, it makes my mind want to pay attention to the lyrics, but the song only comes on during super emotional parts. I found that to be very distracting from an international fan perspective. I'm sure Korean fans, if they don't speak English all that well, it was just some pretty music in the background. But for me, I was very distracted by this English language song. But I also wonder if maybe that's the way it is for people who are watching K-dramas in Korea, who are Korean citizens, and some really pretty OST song comes on in the background, if they spend their time listening to the lyrics rather than being able to catch up with the dialogue. So maybe this is just me getting mine back, but I never mentioned that in any of my reviews before, but I hate that song with a passion. Alright then, guys, well, thank you for watching Uncontrollably Fond with me. Thank you for sticking with me for 20 episodes, 10 reviews. Thank you for being here at this moment to even make it to this part of this review. And I hope that you guys will leave me your suggestions on what you think the next show should be that we watch together, and let me know what type of job you think I did with my reviews. I don't think my reviews have always been spot on. I know I'm lacking in a lot of places, but I feel like I tried to touch on just about everything I could in the show, and at the end of it all, I'm very proud of the fact that we made it to this point together. I'm not just proud of me, I'm proud of you guys too, because you stuck with me, and I know it can be hard to watch 2 hours of K-drama and then another half an hour of review. That's not easy. So thank you guys so much for giving me approximately 5 hours of your life. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next review. Bye.